Stampers, don't you love it when you can make a card with a fancy fold and also have an original closing on it? Today I'm going to show you how to make a card using slide close. Now I was inspired to do this by Terry Gaines, but of course I had to change it up. Welcome to Stampin' with Diane. I'm Diane Evans and I'm an independent Canadian Stampin' Up Demonstrator. So check out the slide close card. Now I did this as a portrait one, and you can do it also as landscape. But anyways, check out this card. So you just pull that over like that. This comes off and there you go. So I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to change it up just a tad. Just make sure that you check to the end of the video, because at that point I'm going to show you another Valentine's card that I did doing a portrait code, portrait style, and then a couple that I did landscape style. So what you're going to do to make this card is you're going to need the Free as a Bird stamp set and the stitched nested labels dies. Now this is a bundle, sells as a bundle, and it sells, you also save 10% when you do that. Other stamp sets that I used for this one is I used the Royal Peacock, because I did a congratulations card here. So this one would work with a congratulations card. I also used, on the congratulations card, I used this from the Sending You Thoughts celebration dies. But I thought maybe I'd turn this one into a birthday card, and I'm going to, from the Itty Bitty Birthdays, I'm just going to use this stamp here. Now, for the inside, I'm not sure what I'm going to use on there. Maybe I'll use something here from this stamp set. But I have another one. You know what? Probably use this one from there. Okay, so we're going to be kind of jumping around here, because I have, at the last minute, I decided to change up the colors of this card a little bit. I'm going to keep to the same. I just thought maybe I could just add a bit more of a pop on there. So I'll show you how that gets done. Now what you need to make this card is you need a piece that's 5.5 by 10 1/4. Now, if you're going to be cutting from just a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, you're going to only get one card. You're actually going to have to use more than one sheet. I happen to have 12 by 12 paper, so I could get more out of there. So anyways, what you're going to do, it's 5.5 by 10 1/4. You're going to score this at 4 1/4, and you're also going to then score it at 4 3/8. And then you can pop over to 8 5/8, and then also score it at 8 3/4. Let's put these off to the side here. You're also going to need 2 pieces of the pool party, and this is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. You're also going to need a piece of white that's cut at 4 by 5 1/4. But your pieces that you're going to need also for your card is, we're going to cut a piece, and this piece is that I cut this from was at 2 3.5, and I cut the nestled die, and I believe it was this one that I used here. To be on the outside of here, and I cut that in petal pink, because I'm just going to change this up a bit. So I did that in petal pink. You're also going to need a piece of 1 by 3 inch, and in this card I cut the stitched rectangle die from there, but we're going to be using the petal pink, so I've got that part there. You're going to need another piece of Whisper White, and this is at the Whisper White. This is just a scrap piece of paper. You're going to need to cut this smaller die that just layers in on the inside of the Whisper White. That is cut at 1 3/4 by 3 inches. I have this scrap because I'm going to just pop that up, and then you're also going to need 1/2 inch scraps just to do your sentiment on there. And then we also would need some scraps to do some circles. But I think what I'll do is I'll just use Whisper White to do the back of that. Okay, so like I say, I'm sorry it's going to be a little bit different than that card, but I really think that it's going to pay off in the long run. It's going to be a lot nicer for the card. So I'm just going to put some scrap paper down on here. There we go. Now, I think the hardest part of this whole card is the folding of it. You are going to need a bone folder. Other things that you're going to need for this project is you're going to need some memento. You're going to need some blends, and because I'm changing this up, the blends you're going to need are going to be the old light and dark old olive, light and dark petal pink. I'm going to use the Calypso Coral, light and dark crumb cake, and light pool party. You're also going to need a 1-inch punch and the classic label punch. I'll just put those ones over there. Other things that I used on here was I used the linen thread, and I also used this beautiful ribbon, and this ribbon is it's scalloped lace trim ribbon on there. I used just a tiny bit of that. I mentioned before that you need your stitched or your rectangle stitch label dies. You're going to need those. I'm going to include, there'll be a list, a connection to my blog down below this video, and it will tell you all the dimensions and that sort of stuff that you need for the card, and also it will list all the supplies that you need. Another thing we're using are these trinkets, and these are the Bird Bellet trinkets. And the stamp set that we're going to use is just a petal pink stamp set. And like I said, the memento ink as well. Okay, so like I went about, first of all, to say is the hardest part is the this part, and that's the scoring and the folding actually. So what you're doing is you want to score it really, really well. But it's this second line that's the hard line to do. And I mean, lots of different people have different ways of doing it. I do an awful lot of different books and that sort of stuff. So I found that if by doing this, I can manipulate it better by just going in and folding it with my fingers, and then just go back in with the bone folder. Now, the reason we're doing this is because of this mechanism. We need to have this extra piece in here and give you extra depth inside the card. And I can tell you, I sent one of these cards, actually one I'm going to show you later on in the video. I sent it out in the mail, and in Canada, I had to use 2 postage stamps on it. It was just a little too thick to send through, and of course, they get you at the post office every time, so instead of it being delayed, I wanted to make sure that they got it. So see how you just have to manipulate that. And like I say, that's one of the toughest parts there. It's just that manipulation. And then make sure that you score it. And then when this goes together, you'll see, oops, that it's like that is how it's going to all match up in there. Okay? So like I say, I think that was the hardest part that there was to do on that. Now I'm going to stamp this bird, the bird stamp. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm stamping it with memento, and I want it to be good and dry before I go and use the blends with it. So I have the mask. I've masked off the Bird Bellet thing, but you can see where I'd used this one. This was for a bigger one. But then I wanted also just on the bird thing, I only wanted the 3 birds because it was just too big with this part. You couldn't slide it off very well. So I just did this part. So what I did was I had it where it was stamped, and I stamped it again, and I made myself another template. And then I cut this part out. So this works as a double template. I do a lot of templates with my Stamparatus. So we're just going to put that in there like that. And we're going to ink this up. Again, throw a stamp set underneath there. Just makes it easier to stamp, gives it an even more even stamp. Oops, that slid a bit. there. Like I say, we're just going to set that aside to dry. Another thing I did was I wanted to, I don't know if you even notice it. Whoops. So I want this one. I'm just going to go in and get a spare middle bird. And I'll show you in just a minute what I did with that bird. Kind of cut off, so why don't I just move that up? I'm just going to move this over a bit. There we go. So I want this bird, and what I did on this particular card was I actually raised it up to give it a bit of dimension. You don't really have to do that, but I just wanted a bit more dimension on there. Okay. And the other thing that we're going to do is, I don't know if you noticed on the inside of this card, I also had a bird down there, so I'm going to just stamp that guy just on the inside. Like I say, usually when I do color with blends, I usually stamp and I will let it dry for a bit, just because sometimes it will bleed if it's still a bit wet, and that's just going to give us time to play with and do the rest of the card. Okay, now to get some other things ready. Oh, and also, I forgot to mention, you do need another piece, and this is 1 inch by 5 1/4 inch. And what we're going to do is, you see on here, I've actually put an embossing folder, and that was the, this one. It's the, I can't remember, it's the Layered Leaves embossing folder. Now, mine's one of the older ones, so I don't need that dimensional plate. But I'm going to make sure that I put this up in the same spot. So there's a bit of a line up here, up at the top. So I'm going to line it up at the top there. Make sure that this part is there. And I'm just going to bring in my big shot. And like I say, this is one of the older ones, so I don't need that 3D embossing plate. So I'm just going to put this through and run it through on the big shot. Shaking a little bit. And then on my other spare piece that I've got, and also because that's going to be on this side, I don't think you have to be that particular, but sometimes when I start doing things, I get stuck on those things. So I'm just lining it up in the same spot as I lined it up on the other card to the left. So that it kind of matches up. I guess that's the part of the sewing that was in me, is you want to match up your patterns. Not that I was a good sewer, though. I must say that. I'll just put that off to the side. So see, we've got this here, and it lines, well, it doesn't really. It'll be fine. Oh, yeah, it does. It's going to line up like this. So that's what I'm saying. It kind of lines up. So I'm not going to put this on here to do my mechanism first, because to make the opening that is right here, I need a punch. Now, I don't want to do my punch through 2 layers of cardstock, so I'm just going to do it through 1. So I have that set aside. So let's go ahead and do this mechanism. Now, this classic label punch, if there's 2 lines here. So this will be the first line that we're going to line it up with. So we're going to push this in, and we're going to push it in as far as it can go, and we're going to line it up with that line, and then just punch that. And then on this side, we're doing the same thing as pushing it all the way in, but we're going to line up this right even with the side of the punch, and punch that as well. So see, this is what gives us the mechanism in there like that. Okay, so now I can go ahead and put these pieces on here. Now, I am using the tear and tape because there is embossing on there. we are going to have to cut through this. That's one thing I'm not real keen on, but I want it so that where this fold mechanism is, it's good and stuck. So we're going to also do that on this side as well. These are such easy cards. I found myself doing quite a few different ones. And doing it landscape, doing it the portrait way. I tried my darndest to get, like, from a regular piece of cardstock, I tried to get it so that you could get 2 cards out, and it was just too short, and it just, you weren't going to get a proper 5.5 by 4¼ inch card. So that was the unfortunate part. Okay, so when I line this back up, I want it in the middle of the first fold. And of course, I want this the same way. Go to all that trouble and it's not going to line up. There's no point. Okay, so I'm just going to layer that on there. And see, I'm getting color on color. And I really kind of like that effect. But when I was playing around a bit more with the colors, I thought, oh, why don't I just try to change it up just a tiny bit to see if I could get a different look on the card. So that's why we're going to be doing something just a little tiny bit different than the other card. If you ever do get some the tearing tape where it's over the end, just take it and just roll it back. It'll work great. Now is this where this is going to, yep. Okay, so again, it's going to go on the inside line. So we just want to get that in the middle. Excuse me. And then we're just going to go back in with the punch and line it up. Excuse me. And then we're also just going to go in here and line that one up as well. So see, now we have that mechanism. We have it in the, we have it in where we have the embossing folder and everything else. So now we've got this part done. So I'm just going to go ahead, and I'm not going to color this one because I already have one colored. And I'll kind of give you a bit of an idea how I did the coloring with this. So I just took my petal pink, and I always lay down the light color first. And then I go in, and Stampin' Up with their stamps have an awful lot of lines showing you where light is and everything. So you can actually just use those lines when you're doing the coloring. And then I go back over with the petal pink, the light petal pink. But then I also leave some white space as well. There's some white space in there. So that's quite, done that quite simple. And the other thing that I do is I take my light pool party, and I have one that is quite a bit lighter and almost out of ink. And I just go around, and you don't see it as much on this one. And I just go around, and you can see on here where I've colored just around on there. And that just kind of gives a bit of more dimension on there. And I'll take in my Calypso Coral and do his little beak. And then we're just going to fussy cut. Now, when you do the fussy cut, again, move your paper. Don't move the scissors. It's a lot easier that way. Normally, I leave about 1/8 of an inch when I'm fussy cutting around, but because I'm doing this as a, just to pop up the bird, I am just going right to the lines. And then the part that is showing off here, tiny bit showing if I have some extra lines in there. I'm just going to take my Pool Party marker, because that's actually what's showing on this card behind, and I'm just going to actually color those parts there, and then I'm just going to pop that up. So we're just going to take a small little dimensional, and I'm going to use a couple of them, I think. Just take it like that. Another one right there. And we're just going to pop him up like that. So just a little tiny bit different. And then also I'm going to take this and I'm going to pop these up as well. So I'm going to use the bigger dimensionals for those. I'll just pop those up. Then we're going to take, now should we do a birthday one? Yeah, I think we'll do a birthday one. So very unusual to see me with my marks on here. So I tend not to do that because I leave my stamps on my stamp pads. So with the cling stamps, they tend to stay on there too long, and then I have a hard time getting them off. Okay, so again, I'm just going to take my paper snips. I'm just going to do a chevron here on the end. You could leave it blank if you like. And then I'm just going to cut this off about there. Maybe we could cut off just a bit more on there. Now, I also went and I put a little tiny hole punch in here. I'll show you why I did that in a second there. So I'm going to bring over some of that linen thread. And I have just a tiny bit of this lace, and I've just tied it in a knot. And I'm just going to trim that up a bit too. That'll be good. Okay, so we're going to tack. I want to pop this birthday up as well. So I'm going to bring in those little mini dimensionals again. Saves doing an awful lot of extra trimming on your dimensionals. I love the fact that they came out with the mini dimensionals and also the black dimensionals. Let's just and pop that up. Whoops. I want to put this through first. Gonna pop that up there. Seem to be all fingers today. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in one of these things. Now, these are the trinkets. I really like the flower on here as well, but I think because I can tie this on, I'm going to use the key again. I thought the key was kind of appropriate with the key to success, like congratulations on my congratulations cards. But the key is also very cute for here. So I'm just going to tie that on here. I want to get it down further. So I'm actually going to put a glue dot in there. Now I know I had my glue dots here. There we go. Just going to put a glue dot there because we're actually going to be using that glue dot to put on our ribbon. That's stuck to my finger. Look at that. There we go. Put this. Let's try again. I don't believe that this is the way I did it on my first card. I know it isn't, but that's okay. We're gonna make this work this way. I want it hanging down, so I'm going to actually bring this over and attach it to that glue dot as well. But I also wanted some tags, like some tail end tags off of the linen thread. So now I have this. I'm going to take another glue dot. I want to make sure that it's good and secure in there. Let's put that there, and we're just going to put, these glue dots are wanting to stick to my hands. We're just going to put this on here. Just like this. And then we're just going to give it a bit of a haircut. There we go. All right, now I also attached this onto this side of the card, but I want to make sure that it's going to stick really good because you're going to be opening it and everything else. So that's where I used my tear tape again. And where is my tear tape? I know it was just here. There we go. And I put it on this end because I really want it to stick. Everything is getting stuck to my fingers today. Okay, now this part's gonna come down. There we go. That'll work. Okay, now how do we get this mechanism to work? So what we're going to do is we're gonna take our 1-inch punch, and you know, it doesn't really matter what color you use, but I'm gonna go in. I have some white here, just so that you can see the contrast with it. And I'm going to take a regular dimensional, and I'm going to just put that onto the circle. When I put that in here, we just want to make sure that it moves up and down. So it's just going to be like that. So I'm going to put this in like this. We have this all ready to go. I take off that dimensional, put this where it's going to go there. See, it's just going to slide right up there. So then, what we're going to do on this side is we're going to take a bunch of our dimensionals. We want to make sure that this isn't going, these dimensionals are not going to touch where this circle is going, so it doesn't interfere with any of that mechanism. So then, so it's about halfway in between there. And then we're going to randomly put our dimensionals. Yes, we're using a lot of dimension, but I guess you could also use the foam strips too. That would work too. And then this extra piece that we have here is going to go on top there. So let's just quickly do that. I found this was really important to make sure that you put this piece on before you put your center piece on. And the reason being behind that is so that you don't put your centerpiece on in the wrong spot. So we're just going to center that on there. And see, this mechanism is going to move freely. You're going to have that piece behind, and it's going to work really good there. So now I've got this piece. There we go. get this back up there so we know where that goes. And then we're just going to put that on there. Let's open that up. Now, I can go ahead and I can color this. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to put on the inside, so I'm just going to leave that like that for now, for the time being. This is going to move up here. And there's my card. So see, there are two different cards there. Tell me which one that you like the best. I'm not sure which way I'm going. I think it just depends on your color preferences, you know? So as I promised, I do have another card that I can show you that I did with a portrait. So that's this one. It was done with a Valentine. So it's like that. And it opens up and it's just got Happy Valentine's Day on there. It's that one. Oops. And then I have a couple of other ones using this. This was done landscape. It's just like that. And then showing you that it can also be done on the other end of the card. Very similar. But there you have it. There's my simple closure thing. So you can just see the possibilities that are available there. Now, if you need any of these supplies and you do live in Canada, I'd love to be your demonstrator. You can shop online. I do have a hostess code that's going good until the 15th of December. But for any online purchase, I am giving away a tutorial. And it has 17 different items on this tutorial, and it's with the theme of celebrating celebration. So if you like this, comment below. I really do appreciate that. Give me the thumbs up. That means that you do like it. And if you're shy of making a comment. But what I'd really like you to do is subscribe to my YouTube video below. I really do appreciate that. So thanks for stopping by. Bye for now.